If you're a fan of horror, stick around. This is the first chapter of The Outpost, a horror story I wrote and voiced.
My fingers scrabbled around in the dirt, looking for purchase. When I finally found what had to be some tree's wayward root, I pulled myself up onto the embankment, laying flat on my back for a moment, slowly listening to the murmur of the river as it lazily meandered down the mountain. I probably shouldn't have taken the detour down to this river, but I was only about halfway to the outpost, and a quick soak in the cold water was the refresher I needed. The rest of the hike to the outpost was mostly uphill, so with a slight sigh, I adjusted my backpack straps and started moving. As much as I wanted to enjoy the hike, I'd gotten used to the endless procession of trees about 2 hours ago, and my mind began to wander. This whole thing was decidedly un-David-like, but if the last 5 years had taught me anything, it was that being too David-like was not necessarily a good thing. Being too David-like for too long was the reason I was here, if I really thought about it. My little breakdown had been a result of too much work and too little sleep. My eye bags were permanent fixtures on my face at this point. All work and no play makes David a dull boy, I thought, the hint of a smile tugging at the left side of my mouth. I could always return to my job at any time, which was both comforting and left me feeling vaguely ill. I'd taken this sabbatical to get away from it all, reconnect with nature, and spend some time reflecting on what I wanted and who I wanted to be, as cliche as that might sound. Getting paid to do it was a plus, and I doubted watching for a fire was a particularly strenuous job. So I'd taken the plunge and got myself a 6-month contract out in Oregon where I'd be relatively isolated. Hell, maybe I'd take the time to write a book. It was a trope, but I mean, what else were you supposed to do in the middle of nowhere? As I continued to hike, sunlight filtering through the trees, the hours seemed to blur together, and by sundown, I was nearly at the outpost. As I crested the final hill, I spotted the tower in the middle of the glade, looking a little out of place compared to all the trees around it. It was higher in the air than I'd imagined, which made sense. You did need to spot fires, after all. I was a little proud that I was barely out of breath from the whole hike. Most of the guys at my firm succumbed to the sedentary lifestyle pretty quick, but I'd kept in good shape. It was more a vanity thing than anything else, if I was being honest with myself, but hey, whatever works. Going up the steps of the tower was much more scenic than the walk to it, with the crickets serenading the climb. From up here, I could see how grand the forest was, and it was breathtaking. The mountains framed the giant green rug, and the scale of it all astounded me. I was struck a little by how small me and the tower were compared to the forest. A loud squawk from the radio cut me out of my reverie, and the croak of a sinister voice raised the hairs on my back. "I can see you, David." Thank you for listening to Chapter 1 of The Outpost. If you liked it, please leave a comment so I know I'm not, talking into the void. And until the next, I guess.